Welcome, dear listeners, to a new episode in Mental Winners podcast. My guest today, he is not here in my studio, but he is in Vietnam, a country I'm looking forward to visit, and a thing I look forward to visit this dear badminton friend of mine, because our guest today is very, very passionate about badminton. He has an impressive CV. He has been national coach in Vietnam, Germany, has been working in Indonesia for 10 years, in Malaysia, in Denmark. And he has been working with so many players that he has helped to get the best out of their potential. He's also educating coaches. So a very warm welcome to you, Ron Daniels.
Thank you very much, Johan. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm happy that you have said yes to have this conversation about being mental strong and being a mental winner. And I know you, and there are many things I admire in your personality, but this thing about you investigate and you research things and find out how things are working. So when you share something with the players you help or the coaches, it's very, very, you have strong arguments. So when I think about you, one word that shows up is quality. It's just not mumbo jumbo, but you have examined the things and found out this here is working. And it's also that you have a passion for developing badminton players and the sport badminton in general. And I also see you as a challenger. That's how can we do things different? And currently you live in Vietnam with your wife, and you also made the badminton book in Dutch so far. Can you say the name? I will not try to say in Dutch what the name is.
Het boek.
Het book of badminton, or what?
Yeah, and it comes a little bit from the inspiration, the Bible. So
the Bible. Check.
I didn't call it the Bible. I just said call it the book.
Yes.
So
great. Ron, what is going on in your life at the moment? What is you occupied with in your daily life?
My daily life is we have built a badminton bed and breakfast. So here in Vietnam, and it's a coincidence that it happened because after we were married 2.5 years ago in Fredericton, we just wanted to go a few months to Vietnam, and then Corona struck, and we couldn't get back. And I thought, well, it's going to pass, and that waiting to pass has taken 2.5 years. And in those 2.5 years, we decided that we wanted to stay here and not go back to Denmark. That's why we built a house, and we're going to receive badminton guests here in our bed and breakfast.
Yeah.
Then I have, because there was no badminton, so I had a lot of time left, and I bought a Malinois, a Belgian Shepherd dog.
A dog, yes.
I trained it for as a K9 dog, so a police dog who has to listen to all the commands verbally, but also in signs.
Yeah.
So dog that also listened to me in sign language.
Okay.
And I got a mountain eagle that I'm training at the moment, which is very, very excited. It takes a lot of time to get the trust of a bird like that. And he's big. He's got a wingspan of 2 meters. So it's really a big bird.
And this bird you have in your backyard, or?
I made a big cage for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's in the front yard actually, but it's it's a beautiful cage that I built for it. So here in Vietnam, they're in very small cages, but I didn't want that. I want my animals to have a very good life.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful cage that I have, and doing training with it is very difficult. It starts to eat from my hands now, and it's live food that I give him. I give him living rats or living ducklings. And to inspire him to come to me and take the food. So it's a thing in progress. Let's call it that way. It's going to take me another year before he really fly to me and so on. But
Nice,
Yeah.
nice.
And different.
Yeah. And now you say to me one word, it is in a progress. Because when we talk about persons, that some people are very result oriented and say, okay, we're going for the result, and then you could be process oriented. How do you see yourself when it comes to talk about these two things?
I think I'm for the progress. So it's the process.
Hmm?
And a good process always leads to good results. And a good results not necessarily come from a good progress or program. Yeah. So
Hmm?
you see players getting good, young, and burn out. While I think we should try to lead the children or the players to become good players. You're not a good player only by playing well badminton. Your mind should also be ready to be a good
Hmm?
player. Yeah. And I think that process is even more important than learning to play badminton. So if you're a very good badminton player technically, but mentally you cannot handle it, you will never become a good player. That's why
Hmm.
we also see a lot of number ones in the youth not making it to the world top because they're not used to losing, and the ones who are losing and learning the process will catch up with them later. We've seen that so many times.
Yes.
What one of the good things that I thought what was happening in Denmark with Victor Axelsen is you saw him as a youth player in 2 or 3 months tournaments, and then you didn't see him for 3, 4 months.
Yeah.
And then he was working on the things they have seen in the tournaments that he should improve. So he was guided to be the good player, and he was not misused. So many federations got a good player, and then they abuse the player almost to win tournaments, to score for the federation.
Hmm.
It's not about scoring for the federation. It is developing your players and make sure nobody knows who the world champion or the best players in the world were when they were 13. They know it when they're adults.
Yeah.
So winning is nice and
Hmm.
you're allowed to do it, but you don't have to. Developing is something you have to.
Yeah. Former national coach in Denmark, Sten Schleicher Petersen, has also said that what recognizes a talent or a player who made it to the World Top is the ability to learn. When you say this, it reminds me about that phrase that if you want to make it really, really far and use your full potential, it's a question about this ability to learn. And yes, you probably start from an unconscious point, but then with guidance from your coach, you become more and more conscious about your own strengths and weaknesses and about the opponent.
Totally agree with what State says about it.
Mm-hmm. Great. And Ron, there are some really, really exciting questions I have sent to you, and I know you have prepared for this, and I think we should just jump into it. And my first question is, if you should describe what recognizes what I call in this podcast a mental winner. So what recognizes to you a person with a strong mindset, mental mindset?
First of all, that a person like that is flexible.
Mm-hmm.
He is not stuck in situations or in traditions. He's very flexible. That's one of the most important things. And another thing is that you don't give up. So you keep
Yes.
fighting for the things that you want to achieve. And it doesn't matter if things are not going well, because a mental winner, you're not your whole life, and you are not it all the time. So I come back to this again because I think it's a very important thing. As you describe your mental scale from 1 to 10,
Mm-hmm.
and your question with that is what do you have to do to become number 10?
Mm-hmm.
And I think my question would be, do I want to be number 10?
Mm-hmm.
So because I think between 8 and 10 you need your failures and learn from your failures. If you are a 10, you're not learning from your failures anymore, and you think you are the mentally strongest. And the most extreme example maybe today is Vladimir Putin, who was a very good leader until 2014. And after that, he came from the 8 to 10 in his mental winning experience. And he became a person you don't want to be seen with. Very unpleasant.
Yeah.
So you have to stay the pleasant person you want to be, and get as much out of your mental winning mindset. So it should not go over the edge. And I think after 8, you're coming very close to the edge of that.
What you tell me there, I get to think about a Danish football club, soccer club called FC Nordsjælland, because they have this vision about, well, we are developing the role models for other people in normal daily life in Denmark, and say a part of that is that they should experience defeat. They should try to lose, because by that, and that's also, I just repeat what you said in a very good way, but that's a part of this process to become mental strong or become a good human being. Yeah.
If you relate it to badminton, Bjarne, that's also something what I just said. Yeah? Why do the children who win when they're young stop later? It's because they never learned how to lose.
Yeah.
While the number 2s at that time, they lost all the time. So winning is a new experience for them, and a positive one. While the winners, they never learn to lose. And when they lose, it's a negative experience for them.
Yeah.
So I think you need the losing in order to be a winner. So you need to know what it is. You need to have a definition of the feeling. Yeah. And if you then keep on going, my God, you're strong.
Yeah.
So I think it's a very logical thing.
So you must have some defeat, you must meet some obstacles in your life, because that makes you stronger, and that could put on more fire on your motivational fire, if I can use that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And as you know, when I get my strength, it was because the teacher told me that I was not good at it. I was not good in writing. I could never learn a language. Yeah? So, and by that, he made me a strong person, because the proudest thing, the thing I'm most proud of, is that I wrote a book.
Yes.
And that I learned 4 languages. Yeah? And I speak 3 of them perfectly. So it's thank you, teacher, for that.
Yes.
The fact that you tried to kick me when I was lying in the mud helped me to rise out of the mud.
And that's one of your life lessons, and then that has helped you a lot.
Definitely.
I know you have an interesting story, because you sort of said thank you to a teacher 9-10 years later. Will you share that story with the listeners?
Yeah. It happened to me when I was very young, of course, when this teacher said that. And later on in life, I had my own company, and very young, I was very successful. And I bought a Mercedes, and I took the Mercedes to the school, and I parked it next to the deux chevaux from the teacher, which is a very small car. For those who don't know it, I parked it next to it, and I just waited until he came out, and I said, "Oh, by the way, I'm doing well," and that was it.
Yes.
And you make me do this. So sweet revenge on a nice way. I don't think that he even understood the ironic thing in it, but it doesn't matter. For me, it was a good thing. I didn't do it for him. I did it for myself.
Yeah, that's good. Now you told me what recognizes a mental winner, and here at the podcast, in the beginning, I talk about there's also, if there's a mental winner, there's also a mental loser. But after 63 episodes, we changed that. No, there's not this person being a mental loser. But what recognizes to you the opposite of a person who is mentally strong? So a person who doesn't have a weak mindset. What is the difference between these two?
I think it's the willingness to to achieve something. If this teacher would have said it to another kid, maybe he would have turned into drugs. That was his solution to do it. Yeah. My solution was to fight for it and make sure that he is not right. For sport, I think that losers in the beginning, if they have enough talent, it's an advantage for them.
It's a drug?
No.
It's
it's an advantage.
Yes, an advantage. Yeah.
To lose. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that, and not losing like really putting you down into the mud, yeah? But losing in a competitive way. That will make you stronger as a player. You will learn better. If you're winning, where's the motivation of learning?
Yes.
I already win. I'm already the best. So what do I have to do more?
Yes.
So I admire people who lose and want to learn. And I like what you say. Yeah, I never lose. I win or I learn. And that is something that I use on a daily basis with players.
Yeah.
Because that's how it is. And that's a very good definition of losing. Yeah? And you need the losing, but losing sounds negative. Yeah. Because you're not losing. You gain something in another way.
Yeah. And thank you to Nelson Mandela, who inspired me to this quote where I heard it the first time. Yeah.
Good.
That's great. Right. You have taught me many things. And the last time when we were having a camp together, or I visited your Denmark International Badminton Camp, North Zealand, one of the things we talked about is this expression, instant improvement.
Yep.
Can you share what lies behind that with the listeners?
It came from frustration, really. So I've been doing a practice, and the practice was very good for the person who did the practice and not for the one who was feeding. And that was because the one who was feeding had a totally wrong mindset about it. They had the mindset that I've done it, it's my break, I feed you in my break, and that's it. And that's not the case, because in that way you lose 50% of your training. Yeah. So I say, okay, we start the practice, we keep the practice like it is, but what can you do better in this practice? And first they have no idea. So they come, should I do something better? Yes, of course. You can lift up your racket. You can do a step back, so you got movements towards the shuttle. Yeah. I can do that. Then he do that for a moment. Said, what can you do more?
Yeah.
Or do I have to do more? Well, you can help your partner on the other side by motivate him or tell him what he's doing wrong or other things. Just talk with him, yeah. Inspire him to do his job better.
Yeah.
I could do that too. Yeah. Okay. And then I stop it again, because instant improvement never stops. There are so many levels in it. You can put so many levels in it. And I said to him, okay, what is his dominant leg? Dominant leg? I said, yes, everybody's got a dominant leg. That's why if we walk in a forest, we go in a circle. One leg is stronger than the other. And that leg decides how you do your footwork. So what is he doing? I have no idea. What shoes is he wearing? Don't look at that. You don't look at your opponent. That is the most important thing in badminton. Yeah? Why are top players looking at the shuttle and then looking back again to the opponent? That's to see if they move, if they do something. Yeah? Bad players, they only look at the shuttle. They already made a decision in their mind where they're going to play, even if the opponent is standing there.
Yeah.
So that's instant improvement to me, and that's in everything. And I ask it many, many times in a training.
Yeah.
What can you do better? Not only to players, also to coaches. You recognize the coaches with a stopwatch in his hand, looking at a stopwatch? My God, they're the worst. Time, change, time, change. Yeah. I want that when I'm in the hall, they can hear me on court 1 and they can hear me on court 6. and there is not 10 seconds where I'm not saying anything.
Mm.
It's just not possible. That's my instant improvement. I want to see everything on all the courts.
Yeah.
And on court 5, they should not have the idea they can do it easy because I'm standing on court 1.
That
Improvement goes many ways.
That's good. Very good with this instant improvement thing. And this goes outside badminton life as well, as you just mentioned that. But if we dig into the badminton part, where we both are very passionate about this, and I think when I also educate the coaches, and I talk about you could be a good coach and you could be a world-class coach. And you just give an example with the stopwatch probably about, yeah, you are okay coach, but if we want to take it to the next level. And what you say here, yeah, I want to be on all courts. I want to be aware and giving feedback to the players. How do you prepare to this? Because I think that requires a lot of, yeah, when the passion is there, it's easier than if the passion is not there. But in your preparation, and if we have some coaches listening, what advice can you give to them to go from being a good coach to a world-class coach? Because you have educated a lot that way.
Yep. Well, I start with a very simple practice with coaches. Yeah, we sit behind a video screen and we play a video. And I asked the coach, "Tell me what you see."
Mm-hmm.
And it's quiet, and it's quiet for half a minute. It's quiet for a minute. It's quiet for 2 minutes. Then I said, "Stop the video," and I said, "You're not seeing anything?" He said, "No, nothing has happened really." I said, "I didn't ask you to tell me quality things. I asked you to tell me what you see."
Mm.
So, what are they wearing? What socks they have? Is it the right-handed player? Or let's begin with the very simple things. What color is the court? Yeah? Can you see the badminton line? In Holland, you cannot see the badminton courts very, very often because of the many lines. Yeah? So I asked them just to tell what they see. Yeah? And in the beginning, they think it's bullshit. It's got to do with badminton.
Yeah.
Very slowly, they start to see things. And because they're used to talking now, yeah, because I said, you're not stopping talk, you just talk all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when they do that, they recognize things because they recognize their voice. Hey, I've said that 2 times now, he takes it on his back. So there's something technical in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how you start. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I learned this, by the way, in a way that you would not believe, because I come from the greenhouses and I worked in tomatoes, and I had an advisor who gave me advice, and he said to me, "We're going to look at the plants, the difference in the plants."
Yeah.
I said, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
The plants on the same day, they grow in the same conditions. There's nothing different. I said, let's see if that's not different. And he could point out difference in tomato plants to me. If he can see difference in tomato plants, I should be able to see difference in players.
Yeah.
That's easy. Yeah.
And I love this story because you shared it with me 2 years ago. I said, what? Yeah. So yeah, thank you for sharing that one.
It's really true. Yeah. The name of the guy is Kees Ammelaan, who taught me this. Know nothing about badminton.
No.
But he was great. And then he said, okay, now we're going to look why they look different. I said, well, it's not because they are different parents.
No.
They all come from the same seed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but he could show if it was coming from the roots, if it was coming because of the light in the greenhouse. He could tell me of the position where they were in.
Mm.
It's exactly the same as in badminton. There is no difference.
Yeah.
Then you are in a badminton hall, yeah, and you're looking at one court, but you hear something on another court. Yeah. And from hearing, you know what kind of stroke they said. I said no smashes. I didn't look, yeah, because you hear it.
Yeah.
So if you're on a court feeding, and the player on the other side is playing a stroke, do you need to look if the shuttle is in or out? We don't. We know it. See the shuttle fly, you hear the sound, you know it's out. Yeah. And I've experienced many times, especially here in Vietnam, that they are very fast say that the shuttle was out. And then I knew it was in. And I said, it's Vietnam technical out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I call it always technical out because they were lying. It's not true.
Okay. Technical out. Yeah.
And that is how you learn coaches in the hall to look at everything. You come in the hall, you feel the atmosphere. This is a negative atmosphere. Come on, let's get started. Yeah. Start to making jokes about them. Yeah. Okay. The court here, you're not willing to do the practice? Okay, go to court number 5. That's the court for the donkeys.
Yeah.
That's the court I'm not looking so much at. Do you want to be at that court? No, I don't want to be at that court. Okay, well, do your best then.
Yeah.
Talking all the time. When I'm in the hall, you know it.
And that's my wife Lila has had the pleasure of having you as a coach. Yeah, and when we talked about I was going to have you in the Mental Winner podcast, I said Ron was one of the best coaches I ever had, because you had this ability to motivate her to work harder and being willing to investigate more time in developing her badminton skills. So she recognizes that, and I also recognize that when I get the chance to see you working in the hall. So that's something to recognize you as a world-class coach, in my opinion, to have this extra add-on, which very often is very hard to tell, what is it that makes me difference? But I know when you work with coaches, that's some of the things you put a lot of attention to, this extra thing. How do you, when you work with players, because I know you have something, traffic lights you use as an evaluation tool to make it more simple, to make complex stuff very simple to work with. Could you share that with us, please?
Yeah, it irritated me that you cannot put numbers on some situations. For example, I take Holland as an example. They use a step into the forehand corner, where the first thing they do is they pull their shoulders backwards into the corner. Yeah.
And we are in the deep forehand corner at the back. Yes. Thank you. Yeah. Go on.
And this is a situation where your feet are following your racket. So you put your racket back and your feet follows. Yeah. That's not a situation that you would like to be in. You like your racket to follow your feet instead. Yeah. And what happens then is you got 3 different ways of, there's more, but the 3 main different ways to get into your forehand corner. It's pulling your arm backwards into the corner, which only allows you to give a good shot long line. There's the China jump, so a little bit higher. And there is the side kick. That's where your left foot is passing your right foot, so you can make a scissor movement.
Scissor jump, yes.
Jump after that. Yeah, and that's the one you like to be able to use. You don't do it all the time because it's an initiative stroke. It's something where you really want to speed up the game. Yeah, China jump is a little bit more laid back. You can still you can attack, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
So, and first of all, most players don't know there's 3 different ways. They know 1 or 2. Yeah. So I tell them, and that's the knowing part. I tell them what is possible. Then I want them to recognize it on court. Yeah. And recognizing is doing by letting them say on court what they're going to do. So I play a shot very flat. I say, step out. Okay. Arm goes to the corner. Yeah.
Yes.
Play a little bit higher. China jump. They have to say it. Yeah. They are not able to do that in the beginning. They don't find the space and time to give those calls. But very slowly, it's coming. Yeah, they are able to do it. Yeah, and the more time you got, the higher you play, you can also start to do the side kick. Now, there is a level where you cannot do the side kick. That's very much too flat. And there is a level where it's very, very high. It's very obvious you can do a side kick.
Yeah.
In between, that's where you have to do the recognizing. Yeah, and the recognizing, you have to call on court. Yeah. So now we got the knowing. That's a green light. They know it. Recognizing is coming. It's orange. Are they also doing it? No, not yet. It's very difficult to do it right away. that's still red. But every time those points come back, and they have to call it, or I can tell them what to do. So I play a stroke, set side kick, or I play a side, or I play a little bit more flat, interception, China jump, and they start to do it, and they recognize it. And now I can put a timeline on it, because normally you say to a player, okay, you're going to improve your forehand side in the backcourt, and let's see when you get it. No, don't let's see when you get it. I tell you when you get it. You get it in 2 weeks' time. Yeah? And in 2 weeks' time, you will doing this, finished. Yeah. And then you walk to that in every training. And I have experienced that it don't take longer than 2 weeks before they can actually do it in the game. In general, I think that if a coach cannot learn something to a player in 10 minutes, he's not a good coach. There's nothing wrong with the player. It's the way you explain it to him that's not right. You should be able to tell. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you have to understand how it's done, and you have to be able to do it in a training 1 time, 2 times. Huh? And when you get that feeling, there it is. It doesn't take hours or weeks to learn a player something. It takes half an hour to do something perfect, and to change footwork in the back line. If they're here for a personal course, they do it within a month. And if they don't do it, I have to go and give my papers as a coach back, because I'm not good enough.
So very good. So that was a look into your badminton philosophy and this thing about developing the player's consciousness about being aware of what to do, and also that you as yourself, you know yourself as a coach, and you have a long lifetime experience of each player is individual, and you have to approach each player in an individual way, also when it comes to teaching new stuff, and they should learn new things.
Definitely.
Yeah. But this traffic light metaphor, or these three, I think it's very, very useful, because what I have experienced is that, sometimes I make things too complex in my eager to help the player. So that's a good one to say, okay, green, you're able to do it, or you know it. Orange or yellow, as we call it in Denmark, on the way, not totally perfectly, and red, not good. Thank you for sharing that one, Ron.
You're very welcome.
Ron, with your many years of experience being a top coach in Europe and in Asia, and if we have the mental glasses on, what differences do you experience and see if you're an Asian player compared to a European player?
I think the big difference is that it's very seldom that I see Asian players getting angry. It happens, but it's on lower level. On high level, you never see them getting angry. It's so seldom. While European players can be burst out in anger on many occasions. Even the Danish national team players in the men's double burst out against public and players sometimes. The focus on Asian players, if they're angry, it goes inside. So if they burst, if you burst, anyone, you're not analytical anymore. You're not thinking anymore. You're emotional. And that means that getting angry most likely will make you lose your next rally. So there's a certain kind of looking on in Tai Chi Ji, for example, when she's angry. And
the lady single player from Chinese Taipei.
Right. And she is ironically smiling when she gets angry. And she comes back in a brilliant way with the most brilliant moves. Yeah? We see that positiveness also in Fittinghoes. I really like that guy a lot. He plays against Mamoto, comes to the net, cannot get the shuttle over the net, but he touched the shuttle goes up, and he hits it one extra time to kill it. Yeah. And Momota is in shock. So what are you doing? This is not allowed. And Finnegoose gets a big smile on his face. He says, yeah, I know, it's a mistake. It's fun. Yeah. So he makes mistakes and he turns it into something funny.
Yeah.
That is absolutely controlling your emotions to make it positive. And I love that. I simply love it. Yeah. But the big difference is Asians are mystical. It is European players are bursting out, and that is not what I like to see. And I try to also tell my players from Europe to control that much more. When you're angry, you're probably going to lose the next rally as well, because you're not analytical. You just now I got to make a smash and win the point. No, you're not. You have to find the control back first.
Yeah. Well, what is your advice to a player who has a strong temper or a bad temper to sort of get rid of that, just like a volcano? If there's so much pressure on and you cannot explode, or I don't know the word in English, what it's called when it goes out.
Burst out.
Burst out. Yeah. What tip do you have? Because I have such a strong temper, and if I turn it inwards, I'm almost exploding and I cannot focus.
I've been talking with one of my players online the other day, and that was it's a little bit the same of what I told you in the advice I gave to my workers who come with a problem. Yeah. Also here, I tell them, why not smile at your mistakes? Because it's such a strong signal. So if you make a mistake and you go like, my God, that was not smart to do it that way, then you're analyzing. If you shout, oh, shit, ow, nothing positive in that. Yeah. And just ironically smile to yourself when you make a mistake. It's also a strong statement to your opponent. Say, this is not what I normally do, but it's funny. But next time I kill you with that if you give me the chance one more time. So there's much more into it. And it's practice. I had it with Magnus one time.
A Danish player you've been working with,
the youth player, very temperamental. So, and he was throwing with his racket. So I took the racket from him and I throw it to the other side of the hole. He said, "How does it make you feel?" "You throw with my racket. You do it all the time. Stop doing it." Yeah. So, and if you really want to throw with your racket, give it to me. I can throw it a lot further. And I don't say that it stopped forever, but it made him think about it a lot more. I think you should always have respect for your materials, no matter what. I can get really angry if I see people abuse shuttles, for example. I've been to very many shuttle factories in Asia. And when you see what work needs to be done to make a shuttle and in what conditions the people are working to get that done, don't fuck the shuttle up. Treat it with respect.
And what you say there, it reminds me about if you're in the military, you never lose your weapon. So compare your racket with a rifle or a machine gun, and said, okay, I always take care of that, because without that, I might not live tomorrow.
There's a very famous video clip about that. This is my rifle. You've heard it or not?
No, I have not.
They sing a song about it. I will send it to you.
I
wanted to do that clip. I made a zombie movie one time, remember, for badminton?
I think I need to see it again, but there's a small bell ringing.
I made a promotion video for Ori badminton, and that is with zombies. So all the zombies from Europe come to Ori to learn to not be a zombie badminton player. Okay. I also wanted to do this clip with this rifle. They're laying on their bed. This is my rifle. There are many rifles, but this one is mine. That's how it starts. This is a whole song. And I wanted to do that with a badminton racket, the clip. I never did it, but I wrote the text for it that I wanted.
But it will come now, Ron, because now you mentioned it to me, and I will remind you with love about it. What is the status of that video? And then,
yeah. I will
and,
send the video, the official video to you so you can have a look at it.
yeah,
And then you get the idea of what I want.
that's great. Well, Ron, what about if I am teenager in my beginning 20s, and yes, I want to do more of this badminton, and it's great, and I want to get your knowledge and to get you as a coach. What are the possibilities?
To be honest, you know, we've gone through a very long way together, and we've seen the development in badminton. First, there were badminton camps where you had 2 coaches and 40 kids, and we thought it was great. And then we said, what about if we had a coach on every court? So I started to do that in Oru, and we had 8 coaches on 6 courts. 1 coach for the coaches, and on every court a coach. Then I said, yeah, it's nice, but it can be done better. That's what I do now. Yeah? And that is, I want to work with 4 players for a long time in extreme detail. Yeah? And that detail doesn't start in the hall. It can start already online. I do some players I already do 1 year theory lessons with online. And it doesn't matter where they are in the world. I just get out of bed in the middle of the night if I have to. Yeah? And then do the coach or do the theory lessons with them. I heard from many coaches, they say, how can you talk 1 hour about badminton in theory?
Yeah.
Oh, that's very difficult because I need at least 100 hours to do that.
Yeah.
And I always have something in theory to talk about on the player. And it's not general stuff, it's specific on the player. Yeah? So that's already a way to meet me. Yeah? So you can come online training with me. And I do that for coaches also. As you know, sorry?
Yeah, and in the show notes, I will see to how to get in contact with you if they're interested in that. So just continue, Ron.
Thank you. Thank you. And then, of course, they can come here to Vietnam. And Vietnam is a relatively cheap country. We have our own homestay, BB&B, where they can stay, and we can do every single day. We can do an amount of hours of training because we have our own badminton court. It's absolutely no problem to do that. And you make a combination of a perfect holiday in an Asian country and play badminton in that country. And playing badminton in Asia is so much different than doing it in Europe. If you've been here, you are already mental stronger because you have experienced playing in a temperature between 35 and 40 degrees, where you're literally, when you're finished with your training and you sit down on the ground, you're sitting in a pool of sweat.
Yeah.
It is extreme. Yeah. And it is personal attention all the way through. Yeah. If I'm talking about that you can hear me in a hall with 40 players, you can just as well hear me talking without any stopping to 1 player, because you play with me in the training and there is not 1 mistake that you can make without me seeing it and say something about it. Yeah. So in reality, if you look at a general club training in Denmark, if a player gets 5 minutes attention of the coach in the 2-hour training, already quite a lot. Yeah? 5 times 20, that's a lot of personal attention. Yeah? Here you get 2 hours personal attention.
Yeah.
So coming to me for 1 month is the equal of 1.5 year training in your club.
Yeah.
In detail. Not only do I tell it to you, I also write it down. When you leave here, you leave with a book. The player I have now, he's here for 4 weeks. He got 19 pages of comments and information about his game. And before he leaves, it will be 40 pages. And he takes that home with him because your memory is a very bad thing. You forget much more than that you remember. And your paper is your memory for you.
I like that. And if I were young and really passionate for badminton, I would definitely go for this option here. So that's really good, Ron, that you and your wife, Hun, is running this academy or facility in Vietnam. So That's really, really good. But a part of this becoming a really good badminton player or trying to reach the full badminton potential or whatever we should call it, when a badminton player grows up, the parents are playing a major role in that. So if we have some listeners who say, yeah, I have this talented or passionate child doing badminton, how can I help my daughter or son in the best way when it comes to the badminton life? What advice do you have to the parents?
Everybody knows of, every coach knows about parents who are interfering a lot, or in our opinion, are not handling the kids the way they should. They put too much pressure on them. Yeah? And we as a coach already put pressure on them. The club put pressure on them. The federation put pressure on them. They get pressure in school. The least thing they're interested in or should have is pressure at home.
Mm-hmm.
Home should be a safe haven for failing, for tears, for joy with the family, yeah, but not a performance environment. Yeah. The performance environment is all around them. So here it should be, the parents should be taking care of all the other stuff. In Germany, I wrote an article one time when I was Landestrainer there. It was DPS, drive, pay, and shut up.
Drive, pay, and shut up. Yeah.
That's I told to the parents, because there were some parents who are really terrible. There are also very good ones, but there were also terrible ones. So, and it's DPS. Yeah. So drive the kids, pay for them, and shut up. Yeah. Let me do my work. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that is something that parents many times forget. Yeah. They think, no, of course not. They know their kid the best, but it's the first kid who ever had a talent in badminton or in any sports. It's their first experience. They make all the mistakes that everybody makes.
Mm.
For me, it's kid number 533.
Yeah.
I have already 500 experiences behind me with it. Yeah, I can tell them what they should consider doing and not, yeah, to make sure that it's happened. Yeah. Are parents always listening? No, not always, but the ones who do have success. And one of them is Isabel Hartwig, now Loa, she's called. She's become mixed double champion from Europe a few months ago. And I had her in Germany in my group. Her parents were all England players. Yeah. And they never interfered with the training. Never. And those are people who knows what it takes. They know what it's all about. They've been there themselves. And they say, Ron, you're the coach. You handle it. And see, Isabel has become one of the best mixed doubles players in Europe at the moment.
Yeah.
And a wonderful mentality. So when Erik Meijs died, she was in China.
He was a Dutch player, former player.
If my former Dutch player, he died in Germany in a car crash.
Sadly.
And Isabel was in Asia, and she had to collect points for the Olympics, and she decided to go back to Europe to the funeral.
Yeah.
Gave up her quarterfinal that she had to play.
Yeah.
That is not only a good player, that is a good human being.
Yes. Good story. So that was a piece of advice to the parents in order to help the children in the best way. If we go up in a higher perspective, Ron, and talk about, well, we have some listeners and I would like to become mentally stronger, or I have a goal that I'm trying to reach, but I think there's something stopping me for moving on, or there's some obstacles. If you should give 3 tips for developing a stronger mindset so you reach your goals faster or become a better human being, like we just talked about, Isabel, what would you say then?
To the parents or to the players or coaches?
You can pick the point, and then maybe I could try to sum it up to more general, because I know it's an unfair question to you, because it's contextual. It's contextual. I know that. So you get to choose it.
First piece of advice I would say is that you have to collect your information as broad as possible. That's one thing.
Hmm?
The player who is at me now, he decided 5 years ago that he wanted to work with me, long before he knew who I was. And that was because of an article that I wrote online in Holland. And
Hmm?
that article was, to become a world champion is a decision. Goals don't happen to you. You decide them. You decide to do it. The reason why I wrote,
I stop you here, Ron, because
yep,
you have to say this again. It's so good. Please repeat it.
to become a world champion is a decision. Yeah. Goals don't just fall on you. You decide them.
Hmm.
It's a conscious thing. Yeah. And I had the inspiration from a meeting in the talent group in Denmark when I was assistant coach in the talent group.
Hmm?
There was Peter Rasmussen. And
Peter
everybody,
Rasmussen, former world champion in
yes,
1990s, 95 or 6, yes?
he was a young boy then, together with his sister Mille, and they were in the talent team, and everybody was asked how good they want to become, and there were many good players there. Jim Lauritsen was there, Rick Olsen was there, Jens Eriksen was there, Thomas
Hmm.
Lundgaard was there, Martin Lundgaard,
Martin Lundgaard, yes.
and so there were many good players there, and everybody was very moderate about their goal setting. And Peter, he sat there, legs stretched out, arms over him. He said, I'm not want to be, I'm going to be world champion. He said it in that meeting.
Yes.
Yeah. And I thought, wow, that's a statement. And then a couple of years later, he did it. And that makes it even stronger because he said it at that time. Yeah. And that also made me realize that it's a decision. And Peter did extreme things. He trained with Lynn a lot and was running around on shoes that were much too flat, not too healthy. But he was bloody good, physically strong. Came from Belarus, did a very high education. He's a doctor now, I believe. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yeah.
So it is. It's amazing, and that is how it is. You make a decision, and the decision don't have to be world champion, but the decision is at least the best you can get. That's the
Great.
minimum thing you have to do.
So the first tip was to be collect information broad when you refer to the player you have right now. If I can share an example of that, because I had the privilege to work with Peter Rasmussen's children in a mental way, and one of his children is exactly practicing this, because at one of the sessions he presented me to a book about train your brain or something like that, but it just shows what you just said, that he's actually living your advice. So yes,
I believe that.
yes,
It was a special. I've been to his house in Belarus when he was a youth player, and there was the terrace outside, and it was raining, and on the terrace there were 5 little holes with water in it. That is where he did his footwork. And the tiles on the terrace were worn down in the corners and in the center.
That's great.
It was just experiences that you don't realize the meaning of when you see it, but it comes back to you later.
Yeah. Great. So that was advice number 1. Second tip.
Second advice of
the 3. You already did 3?
No. I did.
You did the first one. Collect broad information.
Yep.
And you said that the player you have right now, he started 5 years ago. Yeah. So you had
3. For a mental winner to become a mental winner, is to overcome your obstacles in life. So you can do two things. You can say, oh, it's so sad this happened to me. Or you can say, okay, shit happens. Next, let's keep on. Yeah? My life has not been perfect. I had some very big problems in my life. Does it bother me? Nope. It makes me stronger. It makes me more decisive. Yeah. So don't let yourself down because something is not working out the way that you wanted it to work out. Yeah. I never wanted my kids to get into any problem, but when it did, work with it. Get them out of there. And that's the same if you want to achieve something. So, yeah, when my company broke down, I had 24 hours that was not so fun because I was mentally down, and after that it was finished. Okay, next thing.
Yeah.
Forget about it.
Yeah. One story you shared with me before we started the show here was you said this, okay, if you have a member of your team experiencing a problem, and you are the coach or the leader, the manager, you had a certain way that they should come and talk to you about it. Can you share that with the listeners, please?
It's not InfoSport. It was actually in my role as a company turnaround manager in Denmark of a very big company that I worked for. And people on a daily basis came to my office to tell the problems. And they always do it in a certain way. They come with their face hanging down and, Ron, I've got a problem. I said, okay, I want to hear it, but you go out of my office, you come back in again, and you say the same thing with a smile on your face. And they went out of the office and they came with a smile on their face in the office. Ron, I got a problem, yeah? That doesn't sound like a problem anymore, yeah? It's very difficult not to laugh if you smile. Even if you have to tell a problem. Yeah? The problem becomes a problem with your whole posture, your whole body language says it's a problem. But you can separate those two things. So if you separate it, your brain will also accept that the problem is not as big as it is.
Yes.
And that helps. I don't say it solves all the problems, but it makes it very much more easy to handle them.
That's a good point. Good reminder. And how do you see yourself? Because I know you are very motivated when you meet a problem, that you think in solutions.
I think mental winners never think in problems. We think in solutions. So for every problem that occurred, I got several solutions. There's not one, or there's not maybe one, there's several of them. Yeah. It is keeping the child inside you alive. There was a study done in America with small children, and they had a problem to solve of, I don't know, 500 glasses that was ordered, was not sold. How are we going to sell those 500 glasses? They asked the children of 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah.
4 or 5 years old came up with 20, 25 solutions to sell the glasses. Yeah. And then they asked the same questions to adults. They came up with 2 or 3 because they all kill their own ideas before they say it. The kids came with all the ridiculous ideas too. But in every ridiculous solution, there's always a few who are actually brilliant. But we kill them ourselves. The light bulb go on in your head and you put the hammer on it. Out.
Yeah.
No. Keep them alive.
Yeah.
Ask stupid things. There are no stupid questions. There are stupid answers.
Yeah. That's a good point. Ron, we are getting closer to the finish line of this exciting talk that we're having. And I still have some questions for you that I'd like you to share with me and the listeners.
I keep going.
Yeah. So I work with NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. And there, when I work with clients or athletes, or now I say normal people or managers, I very often ask this question here to develop the consciousness of what is going on in the unconscious mind. Mm-hmm. So I have a question here, which actually is 3 questions in one. So when you feel in the strongest way, or when your mental winner strength is very, very high, not 10, maybe 8 or 9, what do you then see on your inner video screen is the first question. And what do you feel inside yourself? And where do you feel it? And are there any sounds? So could you share that with me?
The video I see in my head, it's never about me. I don't see myself. I don't see myself on the podium or whatsoever. But what I do see is the players or the people I work with having success. And when that euphorious moment is there, that's the picture that comes up, because I've seen so many pictures of them trying to get there, and they failed, and they cried, and they were disappointed. And now it's working for them.
Yeah.
And I have been a part of this working process. So I see the people I work with on my video screen inside my head.
Yes.
And it's the same for the feeling. Yeah. When you know how much pain it costs you hours and hours of pain to achieve that moment. And when that moment, that strong moment feeling is there, it's like an explosion. You feel totally lucky inside, and totally well done, and to perfectionism, it worked out. Yeah.
Great. And where do you feel that in your body?
It's your hairs rise up, and when you get older, it is difficult to hold my tears back. I'm getting more emotional when I get older. So, but it is a very powerful feeling inside your body. Yeah, it's like warm, and you almost want to jump up.
Yes.
That kind of feeling. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the sound is, I can shut away every sound. Yeah. And the example I gave before is I coached against Victor Axelsen with Erik Pang, and I told the journalist before the game started that Erik would win in 2 sets.
Yeah.
And it's a long time ago. Yeah, it's in 2011 or 12, something like that. And Victor was a coming star, and everybody, and Erik was already a little bit older and on his way to get out of the serious game. And everybody thought Erik would lose, but we had the perfect tactics, and it was in a big hall. Was during the Dutch Open, and everybody was cheering for Erik, of course, because he was winning, and there was a lot of sound, and in my head it was completely quiet. It was like the slow motion thing you see with no sound at all. So no sound is the perfect sound for me when everything goes into this peak of mental powers feeling.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. And I have interviewed more than 200 people. And when we talk about that, it's, of course, it's individual, because each athlete or person has his own movies, pictures on the inner screen, and the feeling is placed different places in the body, and also what they hear. So to you, dear listener, if you haven't tried this before, try to answer these questions, 3 questions, and see what shows up. And then you're following Ron's advice number 1, broaden your knowledge or collect information. And you could start by doing this to yourself. Thank you, Ron. Ron, it's time now to say thank you for having a nice conversation. But I would like to ask you, because I know you're prepared for this talk we're going to have here. So what haven't we talked about that you would like to give a comment to the listeners and me here in the end of the podcast?
There is really a lot of things we haven't talked about yet.
I know. So we have to
hardly scratched the surface, to say it mildly. Yeah. I calculated the other day that I written over 1.5 million words on badminton.
Wow.
In the last 15 years. So there's a lot, but there are also things that inspire me, and you are one of them. And that's what I really would like to say. I could never be like you. It would drain me from energy, so much energy you got in being positive and on so many subjects. This podcast is one of the things that I think you were one of the first ones who started the badminton podcast in this sense about specific subjects, which was extremely interesting, and it inspires me. So I would say thank you for inspiring me, Bjarne. That's also the way it should be between two elite coaches.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to stop, to be a little bit selfish.
It's not selfish.
We let it stay here for a moment. Yeah. So Ron, thank you. I appreciate. I cannot say that. We cut that out. I appreciate that you have been with us here at the Mental Winner podcast, and we started doing podcasts in English. So Ron, I know there is a guy in Germany you think I should invite into this podcast. Can you tell me about him?
Yeah, I would like you to invite Tobias Wadenka. He is a young coach in his 20s, and he's doing a podcast in Germany. And he is making very, very good badminton videos on YouTube. He is one of the inspiring coaches. He has been my player in Germany for a couple of years. He's been to Oru, and he's been in Vietnam with me also.
Yeah.
So it's so great to see that your way of thinking gets an extension in coaches like Tobias, who was coach of the year last year in Germany, and that young coaches come with new exciting extensions of badminton thoughts, and he is really, really good. And I think you should have him in your English podcast for sure, and he would love to do it.
I have written his name down. So thank you, Ron, for that advice tip.
You're welcome.
To all the listeners, this was the word for this episode of the Mental Winner podcast. Thank you to you, Ron, and have a great day, everybody who has been listening and with us for the last hour. Bye-bye.